Are things getting worse for women? In the latest episode of S&D In Progress, we spoke to two elected representatives from the S&D Group. Lina Gálvez is from Spain, and she's the chair of the Women's Rights Committee here in the European Parliament. Delara Burkhardt is an MEP from Germany.
So, Lina, your title as chair of the FEM committee of the Parliament, it's kind of chief feminist of the European Parliament.
That's nice.
Yes, it's a good title, I think. What was how did you become a feminist? What was the moment where you considered yourself being a feminist?
Wow. That was, I guess, a long time ago. I was probably a teenager. And I have thought a lot about it because many people ask me when that moment happened. Probably the origin is that I grew up in a military base where during the end of the dictatorship in Spain, at the beginning of democracy, when we don't really have a real democracy yet. And it was so clear for me that I could not become what my father was, because it was forbidden for me.
Yeah.
So we were 5 daughters in and it was my mother, my grandmother and everything. So it was a very female family in a very extremely male-dominated, hierarchical, irrational place, violent in a way or military in a way. So I really realized that I wanted something else for me, for the society, and from everyone else. And then because I read and read a lot of studies,
and then when you do that.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's kind of the same with me, with my family, because my mother came to Germany as a refugee from Iran, and she had 5 daughters where she knew that they will have not a good future in the Iran back then. So it was, I think, just the braveness of my grandmother to after the killing of her husband, take her children and go to a foreign country, build up everything on her own, made me a feminist, because I always saw the strength of women, what they can do despite the difficult circumstances they have. But then also at the same time seeing how, for example, my mother, who always had to stay a stay-at-home mother, because it was just because she had to relearn everything. She had to go back to school. When she came to Germany, she was 18. And see how she was limited in growing, because it was at one point more expensive for her to send me to the kindergarten than to actually go work. Yeah. This was something that really I considered not being just, because I see how women are taking opportunities in our society just because the structural discrimination is so hard that they cannot live equally to men until this day, which makes me a feminist, because it makes me angry. And
yeah, there is one thing related to that, because now everybody is saying that we need to be able to choose, and the important thing is to allow us to choose one thing or another. And I say, well, in order to choose, in order to have freedom to choose, you need kind of preconditions that allow you to use that freedom. It's not enough to say that you are free, that you are rights. You really need these preconditions to make the rights a reality. And that is what many women do. We don't have at all, because we don't have these preconditions. We don't have the time. We don't have the income enough. We have to do so many things at the same time that at the end, we cannot really make the decisions we would like to do. So it's a kind of a trap, saying that, oh, women, you are not there, you are not in top position because you have not choose to. No, excuse me. Yeah. There is no preconditions for that. Otherwise, we probably will be choosing a different way. But we really need to make possible that every woman really has that real freedom, and not only the right to, but the possibility to make that rights a reality.
Exactly. And this is why I think it's the perfect bridge to talk about the roadmap to equality, because I saw there were protests all over Europe this weekend, of course, on the 8th of March. And I saw also older feminists who hold signs saying, I can't believe I still have to protest this shit.
Yes.
Again, it's about, we always said that we want equality, that we want females to have the same chances. But this is not the reality in Europe right now. It's still structural discrimination that we see every day. So what do you consider being the most important things on the roadmap to equality?
So I think the most important thing about the roadmap is it does exist, because it means there is a commitment from the European Union with gender equality and women's rights. In a moment, there is a general backlash on it. So it is essential that we keep that commitment. And another very important thing about the roadmap is that finally sexual and reproductive health rights are included. And you will say, well, yes, normally, obviously, they should be included, but I will tell you that it was not clear from the very beginning that they will be included, because they were within this backlash. The main target of this gender backlash is our right to abortion and our reproductive and health rights. This is the main target, and obviously they are saying that there is divisive, so we cannot really say anything on that because there is no majority. Excuse me. Yeah. We have the Matic report here, our close friend and dear comrade, colleague, Fred Matic, on sexual and reproductive health rights, and the position of the parliament is clear, but still there are people saying that it's not clear, that there is division. Of course there is division, but there is a majority. So why in other things we voted for a majority, it is not being reconsidered? Why here there is this kind of reconsideration? It's just because there is this backlash. They want to control our body because they want to control our lives.
Yeah. No, but this is really one of the major issues where the right is aligning and where they really team up in order to tell women what to do with their body. But what makes me really hopeful about that is that we now have a European Citizens Initiative that already has over 1 million signatures being collected across over Europe, which I think is a great sign counter this right wing working against it. But also there I do a film screening in my city now on this to collect more signatures for the initiative, and still there I got a message from an older woman who wrote me, it's really nice that you make this event, but also I'm very sad that we are falling behind what we already achieved. Yeah. So what I think is the difficulty to understand, also being a young, early starter feminist, I would say since I'm 15 and now I'm 32, I think that a lot of women are very frustrated because things that we consider to be progress now are back on the table. So we now have to fight for rights that we thought that were secured already, and now we're heading back on that. And I think this is the abortion rights is a very good example, but also me now personally coming to an age where my first friends, they start having families. And then when you come with the reality, when, for example, children enter a household, then you notice how much not equal our society is. Women that are perfectly well educated equally to their husbands who stay at home just because the structures are so old-fashioned in that sense. I think Spain is a little bit more progressive in Germany on that.
Yes, I would say yes.
But there are differences in Europe. It's different in Europe in 2025, where you live as a woman, what rights and possibilities you get. And this is something that the roadmap really has to change, and not only with words, but with actions.
So there is also one thing that I would like to ask you about. It is also how we can do it also, or increase or improve for women all over the world. Mm-hmm. Because now we are moving towards a more kind of a transactional international order. Mm-hmm. Everything can be negotiated. Also, apparently human rights, also apparently women's rights. Mm-hmm. So how Europe should really, do you think it should really behave in this new international order in which everything it is transaction, and we don't want, obviously, to have our human rights or anyone's human rights to be transaction?
I think this is the major task that we are not fulfilling. We always talk about gender mainstreaming in the European Union, how in every policy area we should consider the effects on the gender when we do decisions, but we actually don't do it. One example is I'm working on climate mostly here in the European Parliament, and I always give them a sample on the day where the Green Deal, our big climate agenda, was presented. There also was the equality agenda being presented, but there was no interlinkation. Although we know that when we talk about the transition of industries, we talk about transition of male-dominated fields.
Yeah, very much.
We talk about women being more affected by energy poverty, and also on an international level, knowing that women are more hit by the climate crisis already, and there are more female deaths in nature catastrophes. So there are really a lot of things that you should consider on a feminist agenda when it comes to climate. And this is on all the fields, on feminist foreign policy, also on trade policies. And we have to really make sure that gender mainstreaming is not something that we always write in gender reports, but we actually do in all the legislation we are doing.
In peace and security, in defense and security too, because we are affected in a differentiated way, because rape is normally used as a war weapon, and because we are not sit down in peace processes and reconstruction processes, and we really need to be there. Because when we are there, the result is more sustainable.
Exactly.
So this is something we have to do. And I think now what we really need to do is to put equality not as something that we will do one day or to put just in paper.
Yeah. We don't have time.
We don't have time. We need to put now in the center, because unless we do that, it's democracy that will really vanish. Because I don't know how we can talk about democracy. How can we talk about we have a democratic Europe when we have not equality? For me, still unbelievable. I mean, this idea, we have democracy, but we don't have parity. And we are even going backwards.
Yeah.
And we have democracy, and we are still being killed just because being women. So what kind of democracy is this one? So our democracy will not be a real democracy unless we reach gender equality. So now I think it is the moment, if we were to define democracy, to put women's rights and gender equality really at the core of all of our policies, including obviously climate, defense, whatever, reindustrialization, whatever policy we are talking about.
Yes, definitely. And I think there is the big gap from the Commission now to deliver on this. And we really have to push as S&D, as the biggest feminist group in the Parliament. We have to make sure that they deliver on the promises of the roadmap, definitely.